Call this meeting, the Blue Springs Planning Commission, to order. Ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone that's here this evening, those that are watching at home. I'll go over our agenda. The consent agenda this evening consists only of the minutes of the last meeting. We have a public hearing this evening for text amendment to the Unified Development Code. And then we have a master alternative sign plan request. So with that, we'll go to the first item, the minutes of the last meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 2, the public hearing. Call on City Attorney Bob McDonald for a list of exhibits.
Mr. Chairman, the city has 3 exhibits. Number 1 is the staff report with attachments. Number 2 is the affidavit of publication in the Blue Springs Examiner. Number 3 is the application with attachments. Those are all of the exhibits the city would offer into the record at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Scott Allen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. Before you tonight is a request which was originally brought forward by the City Council at some of their previous discussions regarding a concern over the use of trailers or similar types of structures, such as semi-trailers, other types of normally vehicular trailers, being used for residential accessory structures, so being modified or otherwise changed to be utilized as a storage building, for example, outbuilding on a residential property. And based on that discussion direction from the City Council, we're before you this evening here with a request to modify a portion of the Unified Development Code, specifically Section 405030A7. That's under residential accessory uses. And under item 7, it references what is referred to as incidental household storage buildings. And therefore, we've included that bold and underlined text there. It's a little bit out of focus, but just to read that real quickly, just adding to the comment saying playhouses, patios, cabanas, porches, gazebos, and incidental household storage buildings, provided that such buildings shall not cover more than 5% of the total lot area. Again, adding to that, storage buildings that have been converted from a wheeled trailer, a portable storage container, or a roll-off trash container, as the latter two are defined in Chapter 270 of the Code of Ordinances. And again, that's referencing the portable storage container and roll-off trash containers, are unlawful and shall not constitute a residential accessory use. Again, that's just included with that long list of permitted or prohibited residential accessory uses. So with that, certainly stand for any questions. Again, whatever recommendation is made here by the Planning Commission will go forward to City Council at their next meeting, which is next Tuesday, February 16th.
Other questions for Mr. Allen? Yes, Mr. Phillips.
Mr. Allen, this amendment is due to a conversation with council a few weeks ago. Is that correct?
Yes, several weeks ago.
And if I remember what I read about that conversation at the council meeting, it really concerned one homeowner. Is that correct?
I think that was the, as I recall it, I know there was an example given of a particular structure or trailer on a particular property, but I think the question or the discussion was a little bit more broad-based than that. But yes, there was one example specifically given.
Do you know then off whether or not there are any other examples of these types of structures being used in the city?
I don't have any other data on that. I don't have any photos or anything that regard, but certainly that is a possibility under the current code to use those. And with the city attorney drafting this would close any loopholes, so that would prohibit any future use of those in this manner.
Okay, and the final question would be, where there is an existing use of one, what happens then?
I'll defer to our city attorney, but basically I believe those would be grandfathered in.
Because it's an amendment to the Uniform Development Code, under state statute, those things are generally grandfathered, so that anything that was already in existence and had been in existence at the time of the passage of this ordinance would be grandfathered. It would not be, unless they modified it in some way, would not fall within the prescription.
Thank you.
So existing users would be grandfathered and would be permitted to continue to use storage devices such as this?
If they already existed prior to the passage, yes.
Thank you. Okay, are there other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to speak in favor of this? Anyone like to speak in opposition to this? Bring it up here for comments on the record.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment. I'm not going to say that this is a bad law or a bad idea, because I think that maybe it's probably a good one. However, I think it's very bad policy to start making a rule based on what one resident is doing here in town. I really have a problem with that, targeting one person with a law.
Seems to me, though, that I've seen on Highway 7, South Highway 7, some trailers parked and used as storage. I can't pinpoint exactly where.
In a residential use or in a commercial use? Because this is strictly residential that we're talking about here.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Residential.
This is strictly residential.
Okay.
So I'm probably going to vote against this simply because I think it's bad policy, not because I think it's a bad rule.
All right. Other comments? Close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll move to approve UDCT-1-10-2449.
Second.
I have a motion to approve and a second. We have a roll call vote, please.
Ken Doss,
No.
James May,
Aye.
Michael Parker,
Pardon? Yes, yeah. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
George Abbott,
Aye.
Chris Henning,
Aye.
Lynn Banks,
Aye.
Mark Trojan,
Here. Aye.
and Keith Sullivan.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 3, the alternative sign plan. Mr. Allen.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Before you this evening is a request by J. Wolf Used Cars of Blue Springs, otherwise known as J. Wolf Auto Sales and Service, for a master alternative sign plan. The request is for the approval of 2 permanent banner signs, 1 pole sign, 1 additional wall sign, which would bring the total number of signs of the site to 6. As you know, a master sign plan is required for any property that's requesting more than 3 signs. At least that's how the sign code currently reads. The pole sign also triggers the alternative sign plan process, so the applicant is here for the combination master alternative sign plan. As you may recall from discussion on this property last in November 9th of this last year,
The Plan Commission did approve a conditional use permit to allow the expansion of the existing used car sales and service use to also include vehicle repair. The following week at City Council, rezoning was approved from GB to RC. That's regional commercial zoning, to allow that use to be a conforming use on the property. I have some pictures here. They're included in your packet as well of the proposed sign locations as well as proposed sign types. You can see here on the overhead the proposed locations. It shows up a little bit, but the little darker area here, essentially this area, these two wall signs are banner signs. That's the proposed permanent banner signage that the applicant is requesting. Directional sign, which is already existing, former Saturn sign. Pole sign, which had been removed, and this is where the proposed location with the existing base is still present, and then again, 2 new wall signs being proposed here. For the actual Saturn sign, the signage that was on the property back in August 2008, the Plan Commission approved the pylon sign or the pole sign. There were some modifications, if you recall, from the previous Saturn logo to the new Saturn logo at that time, back in 2008. Again, that pylon sign has been removed. While the alternative sign plans don't expire, the previously approved pylon sign does not match what's being proposed here by the applicant. So therefore, they're before you again with that request as submitted. The proposed pole sign has a 24 square foot sign cabinet with blue vinyl text and a white sign face, and it's mounted atop 2 poles. Again, we made a comment on that just because it is quite a bit different in terms of appearance from what you previously saw with the Saturn sign. So that's what's being proposed. Again, it's a different style, perhaps different level of design and quality, may be attributed to just how it's being presented here. But again, boiling down to staff's recommendation, we do recommend approval of the master alternative sign plan conditionally based on our recommendation that the banners as permanent signage not be permitted. There are 3 separate possible conditions that Planning Commission could consider tonight in terms of just not approving them as permanent signs and therefore be removed immediately, or be permitted as temporary sign only, which is how they are currently placed there.
So those 2 signs are what they're requesting to have as permanent banners, but again, they are permitted or have been permitted as temporary signage. Alternately, Plan Commission could approve it as an awning sign, and that would need to meet the criteria that are in the sign code and also identified in the staff report. Or if you do choose to permit them, the banners as permanent signs, they should, again, we just have some conditions in there, condition number 3, in terms of making sure that they're maintained in a permanent fashion. So there's some options for you to consider regarding the banners there. We did further identify that perhaps they could be mounted in a decorative frame, or alternately, again, banners are typically, as shown in the example illustration in the staff report, which is in the sign code, are typically seen like affixed to light poles or projecting from the corner of a building. So those are some alternatives if they're looking at truly wanting more of a permanent banner somewhere on the property. Just as it's shown there, that's what staff is recommending against at this time. So that's kind of the long and the short of it. If there are any questions, I'd certainly be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I believe the applicant or applicant's representative is here tonight as well.
Are there questions for Mr. Allen? Yes.
Mr. Allen, you mentioned that the banners were previously approved as temporary signs.
Temporary, correct.
Was there a limit of time as far as the issuance of that temporary permit?
Let me see here. Those are 60 days is the limitation. That was expired in December, but the applicant did come forward almost immediately thereafter, shortly thereafter, to request this alternative sign plan or master sign plan. So during this approval process, we've allowed them to continue to have those up there, considering this is what they are requesting to remain in a permanent fashion. That's why if a Planning Commission chooses not to allow them as permanent signs, or to further extend, again, now we're in a new calendar year, the temporary basis, that they do need to be removed immediately.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Chair. So from what I understand, that we could approve them as awning signs, but you'd want to have more permanent type signs?
Correct. Again, that's the whole
And they'd have to
decorative
come in front of
frame or,
us again?
yes. Excuse me, don't mean to speak over you, but
And you're talking
again-
about where it says J. Wolf and then Auto Outlet?
yes, those two right up there. Again, they could be individually mounted letters on an awning, which is typical for an awning type sign. They don't usually have a banner affixed to an awning. So that's an alternative, just design type, to take those off and put in just individual letters, as you see there,
Right.
which is similar to what they are proposing with the, show that here. So that shows individual letters as well, something to that of that design on the awning, or again, could be placed in a decorative frame, perhaps encased, behind plexiglass or something that it's a little bit more of a permanent structure of sorts. So again, there's some different options, but they're just coming forward with what you see is what you get type of approach.
Have
at
you
this
talked
point.
to them about the more permanent signage on the awnings?
Staff did provide them with a staff report in terms of the different options. Again, applicant or the representative is here if they would like to ask those questions of them.
Mr. Phillips, you're on the sign code committee, aren't you?
Yes.
Would that have any bearing on this? What you're
The
looking
difference
at now?
between the awning versus the banning, the banner signs, no. The difference that we're proposing it right now, is that this being a freestanding business would not have to come before us, would not require a master sign plan. So as long as all of the signs were in accordance with rules,
Right.
they would be approved, because it's a single business in a building.
So they'd be more of an alternative sign plan is what all you'd be seeing tonight. You'd be considering the banner.
The pylon.
Right. The pole sign and the banners as permanent banners, perhaps, might be, again, those
I
are
think it wouldn't be a
outside the
master sign
norms.
plan because it wouldn't be required.
Right.
Did you have a question a while ago?
It's been answered.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question. My only problem with the permanent banner is the banners aren't really made to be permanent. And a lot of banners I've seen have been around for a while.
Mhm.
The weather gets to them pretty good, and they start looking pretty bad. So, I wouldn't be in favor of having a permanent banner sign.
Johnson?
I just wanted a clarification on the revised sign ordinance. So if I understand correctly, is that the banners that as they exist right now would not be in compliance with the ordinance. It's only when they would have the encasement or the plexiglass or something that Mr. Allen is referring to that would make them in compliance.
No, they're if I read the staff
Yeah.
report correctly, they are technically complying banner signs. They're just not the normal usage of a banner sign.
Correct.
And
That's correct.
So I guess my
so
question
to
is...
put them in as an awning sign would actually better fit their location.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that an accurate-
Yes, I stand corrected. Exactly. The banner in and of themselves would not be coming before you, but because they are coming before you with the master sign plan, we've included that as a, again, dialogue, some options to consider rather than just as Mr. Abbott said, just the maintenance issue with these types of permanent banners. That's not necessarily the intent of what the sign code is saying. It's not as though it's prohibited, but I think the intention was to be more, again, affixed to light poles, maybe a corner of a building, just a decorative banner, not actually replacing what you'd normally see as a cabinet sign or channel letter sign.
Yeah, usually a banner is two-sided, where you're able, it's a budding, it's coming out from something, whether it's the light pole or the building or whatever, so you can see it on both sides, rather than just being attached to the face of the building.
Again, it's more the quality and the maintenance component of the sign code is what we're pointing back to, again, which is why, painted signs are not typically permitted either. Just the maintenance and quality is what we're looking at.
So we don't approve permanent banner signs, right? Just
We
temporary?
do, but just in more of that context, they would be, again, it's not as though it's prohibited, it's just the context of what a banner sign is, again, affixed to a light fixture or light pole, corner of a building, things of that sort. As Mr. Billups said, more projecting or double-sided type sign is the intent, but again, there are requirements for banners being regularly maintained. Deteriorated banners shall not be displayed. So there are some protections in the code as it currently stands. Staff's just recommending some other options to consider as a part of the master sign plan for this use instead of what you see there.
Okay, other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
The applicant, please make a presentation.
Aaron Beckstead, Acme Sign. Do I need address? No? 1313 Vernon. Don't think about the banners anymore. We'll take the banners down. So if we don't have to have them, they actually instructed me today. I asked him if we could take them down, and he said that's fine. He just, because we're going to put the pole sign and put the name on the pole sign, those are pretty much non-existent anyway. So we wanted to make them on there just in case so that it didn't have to keep going back to the 60 days, so that maybe they could just throw a banner up there real quick. If it was permanent, they didn't have to keep coming back, for that temporary sign permit. So that was kind of the idea with it. But other than that, that's about it. So I can take any questions or anything if anybody's got any.
Any questions?
Well, I'd like to clarify then the staff recommendations, because it says if they do not approve the banners as permanent, the banners must be removed immediately. So you're all right with that? Or would you like to have a 60-day
We would probably have to come back
temporary?
in for a temporary just because I have to build the sign. And the
That's what I was
sign's going to
gonna
take
ask
about
you.
6 weeks to build. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if we could come back in and
So-
apply for temporary again for the next 60 days or something like that. That's fine, whatever we had to do.
So we would must be removed immediately or permitted as a temporary sign only.
That
So
would be fine. Yeah,
the
that would be
60
fine.
days temporary would take
That
care
would
of
be
your-
fine if we could,
and
yeah,
then
if we
have
could
it
just pull
removed.
another one. Sure.
And you wouldn't want the awning,
Basically,
sign, we wouldn't
like I
require
said,
it.
basically it was just a reason to be able to throw something up there if they're having a sale or something like that. But if they can keep going and getting a temporary banner permit, it's not necessary. It's not necessary at all. It's not necessary enough to throw, a wrench into it at all. It's not that important.
so I guess 2 and 3 could be removed and just have it a 60-day
Mm-hmm.
temporary.
Okay, other questions? Mr. Phillips?
I don't want to throw a wrench in this either, but I want to make sure that we're not saying something that's going to be wrong here. Is there a limit to the number of temporary signs in a year's time?
In terms of banners, it says that banners may be displayed for a maximum of 60 days cumulatively during one calendar year. So
Okay,
now-
I thought there was something like that, so I don't want you to.
Sure.
I don't want you to get
So-
the impression that every 60
Right.
days you can
You
come
can
get a
go-
temporary
yeah.
permit.
No, yeah.
And
Yeah, I do understand, yeah. Yeah, no, like I said, I talked to them today, and they said they were completely fine with losing the banners. Of course, we would like
I don't want to throw a
to,
wrench in this either.
we would like to be able to keep them up at least 6 more weeks, though, until I can get the signs built, because they won't have any identification whatsoever if I don't. Although I don't know when that ended. We still may have 30 days left this year.
No, it did end back in December.
In December, so we could do another 60 this year.
Right, exactly, once that's
Yeah, that'd be
permitted. And
fine.
again, yeah, they can have up to 2 banners, that's why the 2 banners are out there at a time. And again, there's some other options, you know, with grand openings, with, you know, I don't think any construction's occurring out there with the new service bays, but there's some other options for temporary signage beyond just banners per se.
Do
That'd be
we
fine.
need to act on that this evening, or can staff act on giving them an additional 60 days?
When they apply for it, we would request that they just, we'd use this date, I guess, as a start for that new 60 days, and perhaps we'd still require, I think, the paperwork for a temporary sign permit application form, which is just a 1-page type thing, and we'd start the clock over
That'd be
again.
fine.
And again, 60 days during a calendar year, so if they only use 45, then take them down, they could put other ones back up.
We don't have to do anything this evening.
Just, I think in your condition, I think the condition number 1, hopefully if that's agreeable, that would cover that. Sure.
Okay, other questions or comments? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments up here or motions?
I think I'm going to try the motion to, on case file ASP-1-10-2451, removing condition 2 and 3, and amending condition 1 to read just if the planning commission does not approve the banners as permanent, the banners must be removed immediately or permitted a 60-day temporary sign. I'm not sure how you'd like for me to word that.
I don't think you need to change the wording at all.
Just leave it alone?
Leave it alone, yeah,
Okay.
we don't have to specify.
And I'll second the
Delete.
motion.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion, and it excludes staff recommendation 2 and 3. We have a second.
I did.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. All right, that concludes business. Do we have anything else anyone wants to bring up this evening?
I do have one item, Mr. Chairman.
Pardon?
Just a reminder that this Wednesday morning is our 6th annual Developers Workshop. I did not look at the attendee list yet, so if you've not signed up, just send an email to me or to Kathy or to Karen, excuse me, and it's, as a planning commission member, it's, you're welcome to attend free of charge. We just need a head count ahead of time as soon as possible, so. It's, 7:30 is the breakfast. Again, I think breakfast will be open for a while, but kind of 8 o'clock, things will get started right away.
And when is it open?
Noon.
I'm sorry?
When's the workshop conclude?
The workshop includes, we're going to have guests from Greensburg, Kansas. So thank you to Commissioner Parker for bringing that up a couple months ago. Individual will be coming to speak on that. We'll be having an update on the Missouri Innovation Park, Adams Ferry Landing. We'll have our customary annual kind of real estate forecast from a gentleman from Integra Realty Resources. So a lot of good presenters there. And I think, again, the Greensburg gentleman from Greensburg will be kind of our keynote speaker, kind of middle of the morning.
An update on Woods Chapel Road.
Was that?
There's an update on Woods
Yes,
Chapel
thank
Road.
you. An update on Woods Chapel Road. Our consultants from Trans Systems will be there to give a presentation on that as well. Thank you for the reminder. So quite a bit to pack into about 4.5, 5 hours. So hope you can make it. And if you've already signed up, thank you. If you have not and still want to attend, just let Kathy know, maybe even before that you leave here tonight.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other business this evening? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Meeting is adjourned. See, I don't know who I owe this to.